All right, there's a lot to unpack from these changes in cabinet, and here to walk us through some of the most significant is Catherine Cullen, host of CBC's political podcast, The House. All right, Catherine, let's start with the biggest takeaways. What's there for you?
I mean, I think it is how big a change this is, the scope of it, right? 38 ministers in cabinet, in addition to the Prime Minister, only 8 of them kept their jobs, David. I mean, I can't recall a cabinet shuffle that big. So this is, we can talk about change style versus substance, but just in the sheer number of people changing their jobs, this is a real shift. You talked about hitting the refresh button. Certainly it does feel that way. Yes, a core group of ministers kept their jobs, people like Chrystia Freeland, Melanie Joly, Stephen Guilbeault, but a new defense minister, a new justice minister, a new health minister, a new minister of immigration. I was also struck by the extent to which, you and I have been talking about campaign readiness as being one of the themes of this. The steely-eyed electoral calculations that seem to have gone into this, the number of new cabinet ministers who are in significant swing ridings, I think really speaks to the extent to which the government, the Prime Minister's office, is thinking about the next election, even if it is 2 years away, and how best to improve its fortunes.
Yeah, the Prime Minister's like, this is the team, is what he said, and made it clear that this is what he intends to go with into the next election, whenever that may be. But there's, that's the internal sort of the calculus. But bottom line for me, externally, the main message the government's trying to send here to people, do you think? We
have been hearing so much about the economic focus of this, and certainly one of the big features of today, and I know you'll be talking to him later in the show, moving Sean Fraser to housing and infrastructure, right? Combining these two portfolios, we know that this is a key message for them. I thought another interesting one that is maybe getting a little bit less attention, citizen services. It's a new portfolio. In both of those cases, this is about, yes, housing, certainly it's an economic anxiety, but sort of addressing some of the concerns that have been out there. Citizen services, you think of those incredibly long passport lineups that really bedeviled the government. The Conservatives were just beating the Liberals over the head about that. Now you have somebody who is in charge of those services and basically ensuring we don't see problems like that again. BC MP and now Minister Terry Beach. I think there was a lot of talk about understanding that Canadians are having a difficult time. I will say that a lot of the words that the Prime Minister said today do seem like things that he might have been saying a week ago, a month ago. So I think we're still waiting to see where the shift is in terms of what the actual execution is.
Yeah, the Terry Beach one's an interesting one to highlight because you can deliver all the messages you want. If you can't deliver basic services, you're in a lot of trouble as a government, right? Because that's where the interaction happens with the public. But look, a lot of change, a lot of people out, a lot of people in. What are the biggest questions that kind of remain unanswered in your view?
I mean, I'd say a few things, right? The big question, is this ultimately an aesthetic change? Is it moving around the chess pieces, or is this a substantive change? How is it going to change the way that this government actually behaves and the way it connects to Canadians? I think one of the big questions from today is this Anita Anand, Bill Blair switcheroo going to work out, right? It is interesting to see Anita Anand, viewed as a very high performer, move to a different portfolio that might take her a little bit more out of the spotlight in terms of Treasury Board. Bill Blair has a very big task in front of him, taking over as Minister of Defense, right? We've talked on the show before. Culture change in the military, war on Ukraine, a lot to do there. So will that switch work out? And I will say one more question that we may not truly ever get the answers to, but I do think a lot of us are still left wondering what exactly happened with David Lametti, right? What were the factors that went into the decision to have him removed from cabinet? He put out a statement today, and the Prime Minister was asked about it, but I don't really feel that we're fundamentally any closer to truly understanding why that call.
No, and Mona Fortier too, right?
Indeed.
There's no obvious big public issues there, but here they are, they're gone. All right, Catherine, thanks so much for this and your help earlier on the special. It's the CBC's Catherine Cullen.